Joining me right now, Republican strategist Evan Siegfried and Civic Forum PAC Chairman Ford O'Connell. Good to see you both.
Good to be here,
Trish. Well, let's just say this. We've been down this road before. We've been promised it's going to happen. It hasn't. I do think tax reform is different because I do think the president is passionate about this in a way that he didn't care quite as much about repeal and replace as he does about tax reform. He gets it. I guess the question is it really going to happen? And can it really happen this year?
Well, it can happen this year, but first we got to get this budget through because the budget's actually going to set the markers and the baseline for tax reform, because most likely if and when tax reform does go through, it's going to be on a straight party vote, and to do that you have to get budget reconciliation. Look, President Trump knows the stakes of the game. He wants to put money back in the hands of hardworking Americans. He wants to boost jobs and he wants to boost wages, and the only way we can do that is through tax reform, because unfortunately, Trish, we've been running the same playbook since 1986. And if we don't modernize it, guess what? We're going to be behind the 8 ball with the rest of the world.
Evan?
Oh, I agree with Ford 100%. I think we do need to get the budget passed also for just a moral victory. It's kind of like you have a football team that's gone 0-6 and they need that one win to get some sort of confidence back. If we get that win, that'll help us with momentum going into tax reform. However, I do worry that tax reform will actually end up bleeding over into January or February. We've heard whispers from members of the White House saying, don't be surprised if it's done in the early 2018. And I think there are some questions that Republicans have, especially in places like New York, where there are issues in the tax package, such as the city and state deduction and the elimination of that they want to have fixed, because otherwise you're going to have New Yorkers getting triple taxed.
So what Evan's referring, just so the viewers are totally familiar with this, is what they're calling SALT, state and local taxes. And the way it currently works, if you live in New York and you pay 4% to the city and you pay 9% to the state, you are able to deduct that from the overall rate that you're paying to the federal government. So what winds up happening is essentially, well, New York's getting a bit of a subsidy, right? Because the folks in Texas, they're not paying the state and local income taxes. And so essentially you got Texas or New Hampshire or Florida that are on the hook for some of the higher expenses we have in places like New York, New Jersey, California. But I hear you, Evan. I hear you that nobody wants to give that money back. And look, I don't want to either. I live in New York. I like being able to deduct that, but I don't necessarily think it's right.
As New Yorkers, we actually pay more in taxes to the federal government than other states, and we receive less back in federal benefits. Don't you think it should be equal federal benefits?
No, because you know what? Let's just be fair here. Ford, you take a stab at this. I'm just trying to be absolutely fair. I think you've gotten yourself into a situation where there are places that are effectively getting their own spending desires subsidized by the likes of other places.
Well, that's exactly right. Generally, SALT, which is a state and local tax exemption, mostly benefits big states like Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and California.
Blue states,
and the rest,
by the way, interestingly enough,
exactly,
that are, taking that money and spending it as they see fit.
And exactly right. And the federal state dollars, particularly from Texas and Florida, the two biggest red states, are basically subsidizing that. The fact is you're getting two whacks at it, and you're not putting enough into the coffers, and you're leaving the rest of us on the hook. And remember, Evan, I see your point, but at the same time, we have very few Republican members. The key is going to be, to Evan's point, what the Republican members say in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and we know we don't have any senators in New Jersey.
Here's the thing. I don't think that the SALT thing's going to fly, because, we've already heard from Peter King, the congressman here in New York. You've heard from a whole bunch of folks that are saying, yeah, we're not going to lose those tax deductions. No way, Jose. So it will be a sticking point. And maybe you're right, Evan. Maybe that pushes it out into the beginning of next year. Anyway, it's good to see you.